Welcome to the Athletic Conceptual Training podcast, where we explore the journeys of high achievers who bridge the worlds of athletics, wellness, and professional excellence. Today, I'm honored to have with us Aaryn L. DuBose, MS, a rising star in veterinary medicine, pursuing his Doctorate of Veterinary Medicine degree at Tuskegee University, class of 2027. Aaryn is not only a dedicated veterinary student, but also a passionate advocate for diversity in STEM and veterinary fields, using his platform to inspire and uplift future generations. Beyond his academic pursuits, he is actively engaged as a brand partner with Fabletics and Vet Candy, demonstrating a keen ability to connect authentically with communities both in and out of the veterinary space. Aaryn's story amplifies the powerful intersection of athletic discipline and veterinary passion, making him a perfect fit for our podcast mission. I'm truly excited to dive into this journey and uncover insights that will inspire listeners, empower young professionals, and open doors for brands looking to support emerging leaders in these dynamic fields. Aaryn, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. That was great. I really appreciate all those kind words. And nice to be here with you. And I'm happy that you chose me to be here.
Yeah, let's jump right in and let's get to know you a little bit. You've been a student athlete and now a veterinary student. How has your experience in athletics shaped your mindset and work ethic in your veterinary studies?
I think honestly, through like being an athlete for so long, I feel like that mindset of being an athlete has been ingrained inside of me. As far as having a tough game that you're going through, or being down by 3 or 4 points, and you need to find like that little bit of will inside of you to keep going. Or for example, for me, it was playing water polo in college, and swimming up and down the pool consistently with no break, and just saying, where am I going to get this next breath in, while also having to fight off another defender at the same time, and be there for your teammates. And I feel like when I'm dealing with stressful moments in vet school, or late nights studying, or me not feeling like I belong, or that imposter syndrome that a lot of people touch on a lot, I feel like I lean on my experience as an athlete, because there were many times, especially as a water polo player, me being the only African American in the conference, I felt doubted a lot. But at the end of the day, I showed up even when I didn't feel accepted in that area, and I performed. And through vet med, on those, like I was saying, on those late nights when I'm just struggling and I don't feel like I can do it, I remember all of the values that my coaches taught me, as well as what I leaned on to get through those games.
That athletic mindset really sounds like a strong foundation. Building on that, many people don't realize how connected animal health and athletic wellness can be. Many athletes have pets or work with animals in therapy or rehabilitation. How do you see the overlap between veterinary medicine and athletic wellness? And could brands in sports or pet care benefit from promoting that connection?
For sure. I feel like animals can play a big role in a lot of things. So, for example, my dog, Momo, he's a dog that I adopted off the streets here in Tuskegee. He actually, broke his leg when he was 2 months old. He had broke his leg. Yeah, he broke his leg, and it was extremely horrifying for me. Like, I was really down in the dumps about it, really, sad, thinking, what am I going to do? Is he ever going to be the same? Will he ever be able to play like all the rest of the dogs? But, from the beginning to the end of the process, he always had a smile on his face. He never allowed it to rattle him. He never allowed it to, knock him off his pivot. And he was always a happy dog. And, fast forward to now, he runs perfectly fine. He's just like every other dog. He's my fastest dog in my house. I have 2 other dogs that don't have a missing head of their femur, and he runs faster than them. So, I feel like athletics and animals, you can kind of bridge that gap. I know you touched on when people are recovering, maybe having a therapy animal or something of that sort. I think there's a lot of motivation to be found by just watching animals on a daily basis, seeing how they show up every single day with a smile on their face, regardless of what's going on in their life, regardless if they got yelled at for peeing on the floor that morning, like regardless of anything that's going on with them, they show up with the same mentality, that same love. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that could be really motivational for, someone else that's recovering, that story, or just, having a therapy animal with them. I know athletes, myself, we really strive on, performing at our highest ability.
Mm-hmm.
And that's taken from us, like in a therapy situation, or you're rehabilitating, that can really play with your mental. Or if you're not playing the way that you envision yourself, or you're not getting in the game, or you're not getting the minutes you think you deserve, those things can really play a huge toll on your mental health. And animals can kind of bring you back down to earth and remind you to, stay true to who you are, and, keep showing up every day, no matter the circumstance, and, your day will come.
Yeah. Yeah. We kind of touched on this before we started this, and your journey in recovering and then transitioning and pivoting took a lot of resilience as well. I was hoping you'd be able to share a little bit of that, about that, because I think that that resilience and that mental fortitude to say, hey, okay, this isn't the path, I have to go this way now, but then bring that same excellence is important.
Yeah, so I can definitely touch on that. Just giving you guys a little bit of my story. I was an athlete myself growing up in Roselle, New Jersey. I thought I was going to be the next hotshot on the basketball court, the next guy to make it out. And I had a lot of people around me that were on that same trajectory, that were, I played for Players Basketball Club, and I went to a really good high school that had a really good basketball program. And I went through a point in time where, playing basketball was really taking a wear and tear on my body and on my knees specifically. And I had to get surgery on, both my feet in order to make sure that my knees would be able to take care of me on the long haul. Because we were thinking long haul, if I get the surgery on my feet now, then in the long run, if I continue playing basketball, I'll have less knee issues in the future. So it was like a preventative surgery, nothing that I needed in the moment, but it was me preparing for my future. But while doing that, I got surgery on my left foot, which was I had to recover for like 8 to 9 months. So pretty much out for an entire season. And then I got surgery on my right foot. Then I'm out for another whole pretty much year. And when I came back to play, I wasn't the same. I didn't have that same confidence in my body as I did before, mainly because, the risk of, making complications from the surgery. And having such a long recovery period after the surgery and I was always pushing myself. Like, it's funny, you can ask my friends, even when I had a boot on and I was recovering from my surgery, I was still getting up shots, playing pickup games. I would just be like a limited player in the pickup games because I was always a shooter. So it's like, you just have to give me the ball and I can still drain some threes for y'all. But I'm not going to much defense, but we just gonna have to get in the zone and I'll stay up at the top. So I'd still play basketball, but through that, I learned that, I figured out that basketball wasn't going to be for me anymore, because for me to play on the level that I wanted to play on, I wasn't able to do that anymore. And I'm someone like many other athletes that want to play at the highest level. So I had to find something else to do. My school, actually in high school, required you to play 2 sports a year. So you had to play them. So it's like, all right, I can't play basketball. What am I going to do now? So I was always an avid swimmer. I learned how to swim when I was like 5 years old. My mom had always enrolled me into swimming and things. And so I started swimming first, but swimming, I was like, swimming's a really lonely sport. And I'm a team guy. Like I was a basketball player. I like having other people around me that I can lead. And when you're in that pool, it's really just you and the other people. Like when a race starts, it's kind of lonely. It's just quiet and you're just swimming. And then you don't really find out what's going on until the race is over. It's like, all right, I won. But it's like, I won. And when the team wins, it's not like, woo, we won. It's just like, all right, what's your time? Like the team winning doesn't really impact your success. So I ended up pivoting to, I had a coach. His name was Dr. Glenn Cassidy. In high school, I just kept saying, hey, come down to the pool. Just give it a shot. And I started playing water polo. And in that, I found out that it was something that I was really talented in. And, early in high school, I didn't get the opportunities that I thought I deserved, but I just kept showing up, kind of like what I was telling you with Momo. Like I kept showing up. I kept, coming every day and giving it my all. And so I got to a point where I was a lot better, which actually didn't start happening until college, believe it or not. I came to college, and actually when I came to college, I tried to play basketball again. I came to college, I went to college, and my freshman year, I tried out for the basketball team, and I knew I always wanted to be a veterinarian in the back of my mind, and like I wasn't gonna allow sports to stop me from that, because I want to put myself in a box and run the risk of never making a sports team and giving up on my real dream.
Yeah.
And so I started playing basketball, and I realized that it wasn't conducive for my schedule. There's no way that I was gonna do all these workouts and commit so much time after school and before school to basketball, also being a successful student in biology.
Right.
So I ended up going to the coach and telling him that I wouldn't play. And then I ended up playing water polo in college. Again, like I played in high school, and ended up being, really good. I played for 3 years and was a captain my junior year and my senior year. And was pretty much, I was an all conference player and one of the best players in the conference, also while being the only African-American male in the conference.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it was a journey, but I enjoyed it. It was interesting, having to pivot and then also having to deal with adversity now in this new field after pivoting.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't take it back for the world, and I enjoyed every last minute of it. Just showing up and proving to people that I'm a great swimmer and I'm really good at this sport also.
Really quick, do you have to have that good form for when you release?
Oh yeah, this is actually one of my most favorite photos that I have hung up in my room. Is me holding. I was one of the only people, I would hold the water polo ball kind of in my hand like you would hold like a basketball, kind of like this, and then I would use that because it would be, the ball would be kind of bound to my forearm, and I'd use like a whiplash, which would allow me to throw the ball so much faster than most other people, and allow me to score off of very unconventional angles. So I was in my highlight tape that I have on my Instagram, I'm able to score in very weird ways that you don't really see, as far as being able to backhand the ball and score, or pick the ball up like this over somebody's head and then score that. So it's I was able to do things that literally kind of I'm Euro stepping.
Yeah.
There's literally a clip from there where I'm literally Euro stepping through 3 people and then I score a point. But it was I was able to do things that I took from the basketball court and brought them to the pool. And it was just very successful for me. And many other people didn't move the same way that I moved in the pool. And by no means necessary was I the best player in the entire league, but I just moved differently than everyone else.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great to hear how those connections play out. You've also experienced working with brands like Fabletics and Vet Candy. How have brand partnerships supported your journey? And what do you think makes a partnership truly authentic and valuable to both sponsors and your audience?
So I feel working with Fabletics and Vet Candy, like you said, it's giving me a platform that can, merge my lifestyle as well as vet med and storytelling. I'm really big on storytelling because, me growing up, and I guess I'll kind of touch on this later. I'll leave that alone for now, but I'm really big on storytelling. And, I feel the best partnerships are the ones that are real. And it's not forced. I only partner with brands that I actually use. I was an active user of Fabletics before I became a brand partner. And I believe that, authenticity matters in those things. It has to be something that I feel is a part of me. If I'm going to wear it and tell other people to wear it, I have to feel comfortable in it. So, and I think that, being a part of a brand can uplift the community, as well as, encourage others that, things are possible. Me doing this shows another, young man like myself that grew up in an environment just like me that, it's possible to be a vet student. It's also possible to, be a brand partner, and it's also possible to, get a recognition on a magazine. All these things are within reach if you just believe. And me growing up as a kid, I remember there was a point in time where I wanted to quit, vet med. I didn't think that was because I didn't see anybody that looked like me. I felt like I was making I was making my way in this field alone. And I'll never forget it. I actually started watching on Animal Planet every single morning of the Vet Life with Dr. Blue and Dr. Law, all those guys. Those are one of my main, and it was so funny. Growing up, I was telling myself, I'm going to have a show on Animal Planet so people can see that Black people can be vets. And I kept saying that that's what I wanted to do. And then when they made the show, my initial reaction was man, they stole my idea. Yeah. I looked back at it and I was you know what? This is possible. It made me feel like my dreams were in reach. Yeah. And one of the main driving factors that kept me going. And, you know, fast forward to today, now I was able to, you know, meet those people and, you know, I can call them and talk to them on a first name basis. And it's just, it's so surreal for me now being able to do those things, because before those were like my idols, and like now that I can call them a friend or at least a colleague or someone in the field as me. And now I just want to be that for someone else, you know, be that for someone, you know, another young man growing up, you know, in a single mother household, and, you know, not feeling like they were good enough to make it out, but, you know, it's possible if you keep grinding, you know.
Yes, sir. Yeah. How important is representation in sports and medicine for inspiring the next generation? How can brands support that mission through sponsorships or community initiatives?
I mean, as far as bridging that relationship is just kind of a little bit of, you know, what we talked on earlier. I think there's a way where we can kind of marry like therapy animals into like integrated like athletic recovery, as well as like having fields where, you know, you have athletes talking about professionals as if they're superheroes, you know, so that people don't say, oh, I have to play basketball, or I have to be a football player, or I have to be, you know, this great athlete in order to be great. Because I think that's where a lot of people, you know, have this misconception that, you know, athletes and all those people that achieve those high things, yes, they're amazing. They are superheroes, but there's more superheroes out there. You know, you have veterinarians, you have practitioners and normal doctors, you have all the way down to just like our teachers and, you know, other people that, you know, give back so much to the community. I feel like there should be more of a highlight as far as like athletes shining a light back on all the other people that are in our everyday life that are superheroes and have, you know, they may not be able to dunk a ball or score a touchdown, but they're still changing lives in ways that, you know, we may not see so readily. Is like, especially in vet med, I like to say the animals are the backbone of a entire family. You know, like an entire family's happiness could be because of this dog, or some, at least there's like that trend now where people are shifting more towards having pets rather than, you know, having children. And it's like pets are becoming a bigger and bigger role in our life. And I feel like, you know, as a veterinarian, you play a very big role in just making sure that the wellness of these animals are being taken care of. But, you know, you're also taking care of the person too, you know, all the way down to the last day of those animals. You know, it's more of a family connection than a business relationship.
It is. Yeah. I mean, even today in the hospital, I encountered time and time again, at least 2 or 3 times, I find myself educating and really partnering with the mental health of and the perspective of an owner and their pet when they bring it in. You know, a lot of people still feel like, oh, Fluffy's a dog, they can handle anything. Well, Fluffy is a soul. Fluffy is a being. Fluffy hurts. You know, Fluffy feels. Fluffy's connected to you. So really educating owners, the community about that, and just continuing to push that awareness is something that I really enjoy. Yeah,
no, that's huge. And I thank you for doing that. Like, once again, like that's huge that you're, you know, taking that extra step to make sure that, I think the word is what, sentient beings is the word. I can't get wrong with that, but just letting them know that, you know, animals feel and they have a soul and they're here. They're not just, you know, accessories to your life or property that you own. It's another person that's a part of your family, and that going through these things and, you know, being there for them is huge.
Yeah. Your Instagram is a powerful platform for sharing your story. How do you balance being a role model in both athletics and veterinary communities? What kind of content resonates most with your followers and potential sponsors?
Yeah, so social media is my way of showing people that you don't have to fit into a box. That's one of the things that I've pushed when I've spoken at my high school or when I've spoke to young people, is that, you know, you can love sports, you can love science, you can love sneakers, you can love, you know, whatever you want and still be taken seriously in medicine.
Yeah.
You know, the posts that resonate most for my followers, at least in my opinion, are the ones that are real. You know, the posts that where I'm just saying, you know, how I felt, you know, what I've dealt with on my journey, and just being, you know, totally honest with people, you know, as far as like, you know, telling people how I felt when I was going through my journey, and how I thought that I wasn't accepted, as well as, you know, having one of my advisors tell me on my journey that, you know, I'd never be a veterinarian. Like I've had people, you know, try to deter me from this path because they thought I was less of. And what I just really want to push on social media is that, you know, you don't fit in a box. Like my name on Instagram, you know, I haven't really been pushing this as much as I should, because I'm trying to figure out how to roll it out. My name on Instagram is I'm Clearly Great, not because I think, you know, I'm the greatest person in the world. It's more of the mantra that I told myself when I was dealing with those moments of when people told me you weren't good enough, or you couldn't, you know, become a veterinarian. I told myself, no, I'm great. I'm clearly great. And, you know, part of my long-term goal is, you know, moving that into like a motivation group or some type of help for the youth, is, you know, saying like, you're clearly great. Everyone's clearly great. You just have to find that greatness inside of you. Yeah. And that's kind of like the whole message behind why I chose that username. And a lot of people actually don't really know that, but that's the reason why my name is what it is because for a long time, when I allowed other people's voices to get inside of my head, I just keep telling myself, I'm clearly great. I'm clearly great. Like I'm great. They may not see it, but to me, it's very clear. And I'm just going to have to keep working until I'm able to achieve the greatness that I see for myself.
Yeah, I love that. And when I was researching you and I saw that, and I was like, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, it either goes two ways. Either they like it and they kind of can like think outside the box about it, or it's like, oh, this guy's like the worst guy ever. He thinks he's just the greatest. And so it can go either way. But
well, I think that for certain people, when you shine your light, they take it as their light being dimmed.
That's powerful.
Yeah,
that's very powerful.
Yeah. So anyway, we could pivot on that. But how does your athletic background help you manage stress and maintain focus? What advice do you have for young people juggling multiple passions?
As far as my athletic background, I feel like that usually helps me the most when I hit a wall. You know, when I'm dealing with school, you know, I'm sleep deprived, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I got 2-3 exams coming up. I'm just like, man, like, how am I going to make this happen? Yeah. I just kind of shift back into that mindset of, you know, me being in a polo game, we're down 2 points, there's 2 minutes left. And it's like, I never saw how I would be able to muster up enough energy to finish this game, but I still did it. It's, you know, having that faith in what you can't see yet, you know, putting in the work so that you're, you know, relying on what you've been doing this entire time. Just like in sports, you know, I've been practicing all week for this. I've been working up for this game all week. There's no reason why I should, you know, feel as if my preparation wasn't enough, because I've definitely prepared enough, but now I just have to trust myself and my preparation to see if it'll show up. And in those moments, that's what I have to do, is because, you know, there's been many of times where I've stressed over an exam, or I've been, you know, extremely overworked and overwhelmed, and I go to the exam and I do better than expected. And it's like, if I would have, you know, and that's what kind of got me in the better mindset of, you know, relying on trusting myself like I did in sports, trusting my ability, you know, even though it might be not be physical ability, it's more of like mental ability. It's still the same. You know, I'm training my brain every day to memorize these things and to know them as if it's common knowledge. And I just have to believe that it's going to show up on game day. And it's actually funny. My whole first year, anytime we've had an anatomy exam, I would always treat it like it's game day, because that's like the big exam that everybody stresses over their first year. Yeah. And everybody, what are you doing? Like, I'd be like pumped up, like, oh, I would walk through the hallways like, it's game day, it's game day. I'd be like dapping people up, you know, shaking their hands, just getting hyped like I would for a water polo game or for a basketball game, you know, treating it the same, jumping up and down, getting the adrenaline going, and just, you know, giving it up to God right before the game, walking in the exam and performing the same way I would as an athlete. So I lean on it a lot more than you would think.
That's awesome. Do you see yourself taking that into every exam room?
Hey, I might have to, man, because honestly, it's like in life, you know, you still get those jitters, you know, as confident as you'll be, you still get a little bit of those butterflies. And that's how I got rid of them when I played sports. And it's been working for exams. And hey, maybe when I got a big surgery, I got to get pumped up. have everybody, you know, get ready, maybe do a little call out.
There you go. Set them up. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's awesome. If you could invite any brand, whether in athletic wear, pet care, health tech, or education, to partner with you, what qualities would you look for, and how can sponsors create meaningful impact with young leaders like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, if I could partner with any brand, you know, I would just look for ones that, you know, are value driven, as well as inclusive and, you know, committed to storytelling. Once again, like, I'm big on the story because I feel like, you know, we need stories for people in order to see that things are possible outside of their imagination. Because most people they only see the end of the journey and they miss the whole story. And you'd be surprised how similar people are. You know, how many people could relate to such a story. Like, storytelling is so powerful. So that's really big for me, is storytelling. But, you know, I would love to partner with, you know, whether it was a sneaker company or an athletic company or even a company that's just funding like wellness activities. I just want to work with people that believe in long-term impact and not just like one-time campaigns. And it just feels like they're trying to use me for some agenda. I just want something that, you know, is going to build something that lives beyond the post or beyond, you know, the brand, something that can change someone's life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. What's a common misconception people have about veterinary medicine and athletics, and how do you want to change that narrative?
I feel like, and I'll kind of tie them together, is a misconception that people can have about veterinary medicine as well as being an athlete, is that you have to choose, you know, between one or the other. And I feel like, you know, you don't really have to, because, you know, I'm in the vet field. I may not be swimming back and forth in the pool every day, but I still go to the gym. If we play a pickup game of basketball, I still got some left in the tank. Like, I don't allow myself to just only be a veterinarian. I still allow all of my passions and, you know, my watching sports. Like, for example, UFC fights are on tonight. Me and my friends are big in UFC. I'll be here jumping in here, acting like it's a Sunday football game. So it's like not allowing you to think that, you know, you have to choose between, you know, two different characters, and that, you know, you can be a vet athlete. You can be someone that's in the veterinary field or a veterinarian and still be very athletic outside, or, you know, go on marathons, go on triathlons and still be an athlete and still, you know, continue to do the things that make you you.
Yeah.
In either field.
Yeah. Can you share a story when your athletic discipline directly helped you overcome a challenge in veterinary school or life?
Yeah, so, and I'll start, you know, before I even got into veterinary school. And this ties into life as well. Leaving high school, I wasn't the greatest student. You know, I had low GPA. I think it was like a 2.7. I like being transparent about this because I know that this could probably resonate with someone else that's in my shoes. Is that in high school, I had like a 2.7 GPA, and I got into college off of, you know, the strength of connections, talking to people, and just, you know, getting my foot in the door. And when I got to college, you know, things didn't really change for me either. You know, my GPA when I finished college was also low. I think it ended up being lower than it was in high school. Went down to maybe like a 2.6 or closer to a 2.5. And I think I brought it up in my last semester. But my road to vet school it's been a tough one. You know, I had to go and I had to get a master. I came to Tuskegee and I got a master's degree here first. Because I was, you know, pointed in that direction by one of my great friends, Dr. Morgan Cornelius, and he showed me. Yeah, you know that, you know him?
He went to North Carolina A&T.
He did. He went to North Carolina A&T. That's my guy. That's my guy. So I connected with him through I did a CERT program, which is a CERT program that we're still doing here now, which enriches students to get into veterinary school. And he was on the student panel, and he gave out his number, and he was like, hey, like, if you guys, you know, need to reach out to me for anything, just shoot me a call. And I just stored it in my contacts and just wasn't ever thinking about it. And then I hit a wall in veterinary school. I mean, not veterinary school. I had a wall in college where, like, I had left this program. I thought I had all the tools to be great. You know, I did well in that program. Then I went back to my school in Minnesota and just had like one of my worst semesters ever after just getting all these tools and things. And in my room crying, and I had hit a wall, and I was like, you know what, like, back against the wall, I'm contemplating quitting. Let me call this guy, right? He's a vet student. He's someone that, you know, I see who I want to strive to be one day, and picked up the phone, gave him a call. And he was like, hey man, you know, I'll help you out. Come out here. I'll introduce you to a bunch of people. I flew out here, stayed with him for like a week, and he introduced me to like everybody in the vet school and kind of pushed me to be someone that I wasn't. You know, I was really shy and not vocal and in my shell. And he kind of just like pushed me in front of people and just walked away and made conversations and forced me to do all these things. And, you know, fast forward to now, that really just played such a big role in my development. And, you know, tying that all into athletics is that, you know, in those times where I was facing, you know, I seeked help like I would as an athlete. Like if I was hitting the wall shooting, I go find a coach, or I talk to somebody and say, hey, I'm going through this and I need help. Now, something I've learned in sports is that, you know, you can't do it alone, and you need a team to really get through things. And, you know, my team that I created from my athletic background is what got me here today, because like my GPA wasn't great. I got to this master's program, and I got a 4.0 in the master's program. And, you know, I kind of had that confidence that I had from sports. I'll never forget it, this story. I was sitting in front of the Dr. Samuel, who was the director of the research program for my master's. And, you know, I owe my life to, honestly, because he gave me an opportunity when I wasn't really qualified. My GPA did not meet the requirements, but he saw something in me and saw that I was able to, you know, he saw that I love this, even though my grades didn't show that. And he gave me an opportunity. And I told him when I was sitting in front of him, I was like, hey, I'm going to get a 4.0 in this program. And he was like looking at me kind of smiling. He's like, hey, well, we just need to work on B's or whatever. But I ended up achieving that. You know, I worked my tail off every day. You know, I kind of treated it like he was my coach, because he gave me an opportunity. He gave me a shot, even though I wasn't qualified. And I just felt like I had to show up for him every day, because he put his name on the line for me. And I came through, got that 4.0. And crazy story enough, I applied to vet school and I didn't get in. I didn't get in, right? You thought this was going to end up being all happy at the end. No, I didn't get in. So that just really tore me apart, because, you know, I was hoping that, you know, if I was able to show them without a doubt that I can get perfect grades, that they would let me in. They didn't get me in. And then I was just extremely, extremely upset. And I just had to keep leaning on that athletic background of like, you know what, like I've lost big games before. I've had bad practices before. I've had bad games before. And I know that if I just keep practicing and if I keep showing up, that, you know, I'll have my day to shine, and I'll have my championship one day, or I'll have my, you know, whatever I'm looking for. And I just kept working and ended up coming back to school for a second year of my master's when I was only supposed to be one. 2 years in a thesis, which taught me, you know, so much invaluable knowledge, and ended up getting in the second time. And so that was just, you know, my story as far as like perseverance and leaning on the times that I struggled in sports and trying to tie that all together to, you know, keep performing it. And
that's, man, I love that story. Shout out Morgan.
Yeah, shout out Morgan.
Last question. What's one product or brand that has made a difference for you as a student athlete and future veterinarian?
I would probably have to say, maybe Vet Candy. And really, me and Vet Candy, it's not really a partnership. They kind of just, they reached out to me just from hearing some of the things that, you know, I've shared with them in the past. And I've also been a big promoter of their free NAVLE program. So if anybody out there studying for the NAVLE or that's coming up, they have a free NAVLE program that's very great. You know, I've heard many testimonies of students that strive in that field. But I'd have to say Vet Candy. You know, Vet Candy has allowed me to put myself on a larger platform and to share my story and to be someone that could inspire others that I never thought that I would be able to reach. You know, Vet Candy has opened up so many doors for me. You know, I'm on this podcast now because you saw the Vet Candy magazine, and now I'm able to share my story with so many other people. So I'd probably have to say Vet Candy because, you know, shout out to Dr. Lopez. You know, she really you know, changed my life in a way of that sort, because this is something that I've always wanted to do. And now I'm able to do because of that, you know, partnership that I have with them, or because they've highlighted me. in their magazine. And even before that, a blog post. Like I was able to talk at my high school a few months ago because they saw the blog post that was posted before my magazine. And it got to them and they were like, hey, come back and talk to the kids. And, you know, that meant the world to me to go back and, you know, talk at my high school, that I remember being that same kid listening to other people talk. Yeah. And it's like, it's just, it meant a lot to me, to be honest, man. Like that's all I ever wanted. That's why I wake up every day. That's why I put myself through the stress and everything, because I just want somebody else to reach their potential because they saw that it was possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Vet Candy is doing an amazing job. And, I have a lot of respect for them and for Dr. Lopez and the work that they are doing. They're doing good work.
Yeah, and it's all free of charge. Like they're here doing exactly what the community needs at no expense to the community to access any of this knowledge. Yep. And just building a better, like you were just talking before, building a better relationship with the community in the vet field. And I love every bit of it. So anytime she calls me for help or ever needs anything from me, I'll drop all my bags and do it.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, man, thank you. This has been a powerful interview, and thank you for sharing your story with all the people and allowing, again, like you said, another platform so that we can get the message out, because it's all about awareness. It's all about connections. It's all about changing lives. And the only way we do that is by connecting and communicating.
Yeah, and I'd also like to extend out a thank you to you, man. Like what you're doing here is extremely powerful. You know, whether you notice it or not, I'm sure you've seen some of it now. But there's going to be a kid, you know, years down the future that, you know, tapped into your podcast and it changed their life. So like I said, congratulations to you and, you know, starting this and also tying in that athletic relationship with the vet med field. That's something that not a lot of people are doing. And I think you might have found, you know, you might have struck some gold there, because that's something that I'm sure a lot of other athletes like myself that are in this field can resonate with that message. And I think it's a message that, you know, all kids are athletic when they're, you know, young. Most of them at least are doing some form of sport, and they could really connect with, you know, this platform that you built that shows that, you know, all right, the sports are nice, but here's people that when the sports don't work out, there's other avenues that you can follow. Because it's like you were saying, a lot of people can find their identity in those sports and not see anything outside of being, right, you know, the greatest basketball player, the greatest football player. But there's so much more out there. And I really appreciate you for inviting me today and giving me the opportunity to share my story with someone else.
Yes, sir. And I just want to leave you with this. Shout out Morgan.
Right. Shout out Morgan. Shout out Dr. Lopez. Shout out Dr. Samuel. Yeah. Shout out my study group. AJ, Julie, Destiny, Gabe, Taylor, Tristan, and my class. Shout out all of them as well. I'm the president of my class at Tuskegee. So shout out to everyone that, you know, is in my support group, my family, my mother, my dad. Yeah.
Shout out to Tuskegee.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for joining. And everybody, take a look at this. We're going to post this to all the sites, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's going to go up there. Also, on the episodes will be on Spotify as well.
And before we go, also, before I forget, huge shout out to my girlfriend as well. Because for her, you know, my days would be a lot harder, and it would be a lot more difficult for me to do the things that I do. So without her, you know, I don't know if I could be as strong as I am. So shout out to my girlfriend.
There you go. What's her name?
Taina Garcia.
There you go. Taina. Shout out Taina. All right, man. Well, you have a good one. We'll stay connected, and I look forward to following your journey. Again, if you ever need anything, let me know, and let's keep spreading this message.
Yes, sir. Like I said, thanks again for having me. If you ever need anything from me, feel free to call. I would love to, you know, do anything that you're involved in. If you ever need my help for anything, even if that's just like some community outreach, I got to come out there and speak to some kids. I would love to do anything involving, you know, this company.
For sure. Perfect. Thank you so much, man.
No problem.
All right. You too. Hang tight.